What's happening, everybody? Thank you for tuning into the channel. Welcome, welcome. For those of you that have never been here before, please check out some of my videos. Hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up. Everybody else, welcome back. Just a quick update. We have 5 days down with the Robert Brooks trial. The correctional officers charged with beating to death, with murdering Robert Brooks back in December 9th of 2024. The trial is in day 5 right now, and I'm going to tell you, fill you in on what's going on. I have some notes here in front of me, so I'll use them to help me. What's basically happening is the 3 officers that are on trial that are left out of the 10, they are trying to use the argument that Robert Brooks suffered an injury being hit in the head with a lock before he was transferred from one facility to the other. You see, he was being transferred because he had a fight in the first facility and they were moving him to Marcy Correctional Facility. He was originally in Mohawk Correctional Facility. And because of the fight, because of the assault, he was being transferred. And the correctional officers' attorneys are trying to say that he got hit in the head with a lock, which he did, and that it was that he died from the injury of being hit in the head with the lock. But what happened was the doctor, her name was Dr. Adrian Martin, took the stand, and she said that a CT scan was done on Mr. Robert Brooks, and that there was nothing substantial at all. There was no brain bleeding. There was no hemorrhaging. The CT scan came back uh, fine. And so she would state that it was not a hit to the head from the lock in a sock that hit him in the head that was responsible for his death. She also said that he was respectful. She also said that he was quite pleasant. And so this was contrary to what the attorneys tried to use for the correctional officers. Their defense attorneys tried to pose this argument that Robert Brooks was out of control. Robert Brooks was defiant. Robert Brooks was aggressive. And Robert Brooks died from a hit to the head from a lock in a sock. And this doctor shot all that down. So I'm sure the attorneys were very discouraged at those facts that came out. Um, but she also testified that Brooks was pleasant, respectful, awake, and alert. Brooks had a non threatening demeanor at Mohawk Correctional Facility. After that, a prisoner testified. His name was Michael Peacock, and he shed some light onto what really happened for Robert Brooks to be transferred from Mohawk Correctional Facility to Marcy Correctional Facility. Robert Brooks had thrown up in the dormitory. He was sick, and he had threw up in the dormitory. And the officer who's being named Officer a female officer, um, went to one of the gang leaders. She told Robert Brooks to clean up his own vomit. And when he didn't clean it up fast enough, Officer Mrs. A went to the gang leader prisoner in the dorm and said, if he doesn't clean that up, you guys know what to do to him. And then it happened a second time. Robert Brooks got sick a second time, and this time they put the lock in the sock and beat him in the head at the correctional officer's orders. And as serving 17 years in the prison system, I'll be the first to tell you that that is definitely the actions of a female correctional officer, right? And that is definitely the actions of many of the correctional officers who don't want to deal with a situation themselves. So they go to a prisoner and ask a gang leader to deal with the situation. That officer needs to be charged. Mrs. A needs to be criminally charged for inciting this entire incident that ended up transpiring. This happened because Officer Mrs. A did not follow protocol, did not follow procedure, did not follow guidelines when it came to a prisoner who wasn't feeling well and getting sick. After this, the defense of these correctional officers tried to say that Robert Brooks had a drug called K2 in his system, which he did, and they tried to say that this was responsible for his death. But a doctor took the stand. Another doctor took the stand. 10, 15 people have taken the stand. And he said that this drug did not cause his death. And that this drug was in his system was very, very minimal. There was a very, very low amount of it. And even if there was a low amount, they said this drug, the K2, which is like a synthetic marijuana, would not be responsible for his death. So that backfired against the defense as well. You know, yeah. Um, they're not doing real good. They're not doing real good. Uh, this is a homicide. This is a murder case. It's going to resume. The trial is going to resume on October 14th. They're taking a break now, and then you have Columbus Day coming, which I believe is the 13th. So they're going to push it to the 14th, and these correctional officers are going to go down. Right. The other strategy that the defense attorneys are using, but they what happened was also today on day 5 of the trial is that the judge admitted the video cameras, the body worn cameras. There was more recordings than the one that just recorded the whole incident. You see, because other correctional officers shut their body cameras off, but didn't know that there's still a way to retrieve footage, that the camera still picks up footage before, with all this technical stuff. And so a lot of that footage has surfaced and the judge has ruled it in. And right. And so the correctional officers' attorneys are saying, well, my client, this is their argument, of course. My client didn't really strike Mr. Brooks. My client just held him up. My client just grabbed him by the neck, but he didn't choke him. My client just tried to push him up in the chair. Of course, they're trying to limit their liability in every way possible. But the videotapes being admitted into court is going to be counterproductive to them, right? It's going to show that these guys participated in a murder. Imagine this right now. Imagine this. If myself, a regular citizen, and 9 other of my friends, I went and got 9 of my friends, and we took a correctional officer and we put him in a pair of handcuffs and brought him into a room, and all 9 of us, right? Well, let's say not all 9 of us, let's say some of us started punching him, started kicking him, started sticking things down the officer's throat, started kicking him in the scrotum, started kicking him in the rib cage, lifted him up in the air by his neck. Just 7, 8, 9 of us completely abusing this correctional officer until we killed him. What do you think would happen to us? And it was on video. What do you think would happen to us citizens if we did that to a correctional officer? Do you think we would get 25 to life for murder? I believe we would get 25 to life for murder. That's what I think. I think everyone in the room would get 25 to life for murder. And if everyone in the room didn't get it, I think that the other people would at least get 15, 20 years for participating in that murder, for being in that room and not doing anything about it. They would be charged with accessory to murder. They would be charged with accomplice to murder. And they would be found guilty of accessory and accomplice to murder. Right? But because the shoe is on the other foot and we flip it around right now, and it was 10 correctional officers doing it against a prisoner, don't let that fool you and try and give these guys leeway. They were a gang. They were a violent, vicious gang. And I always point this out because it's important, that beat to death a handcuffed man. They didn't beat a man that was throwing punches at him. They didn't beat a man that was choking them. They didn't beat a man to death that was picking up and slamming him on the floor. They didn't beat a man who was using his boxing skills and fighting the correctional officers. They didn't beat a man who was pushing them up against the wall. They beat to death a handcuffed man. And then later, they finished beating to death a handcuffed and shackled man. This is a man that had no way to protect himself. This is a man that had no way to fight back for his life. This was a vicious gang assault. And I have to say it, it was 10 white guys on a black guy. And 8 of those white guys with shaved heads, which is a little peculiar. Right? And now they're all trying to, of course, step back and say, listen, I only played this little part. I only played that little part. I didn't, it's a shame. Two of the correctional officers got 22 years already. Two of the ones that copped out. And another guy got a 3 to 9 or a 5. There was a couple of small sentences in there. These guys rolled the dice. These are the 3 that rolled the dice. There's a 4th that's going to come into play later on. He got his trial separated. But these 3, and of course, they're trying to blame it on the sergeants, too. The officers are trying to blame it on the sergeant. Well, it was a supervisor was there, and we were just following the supervisor, and we didn't know what to do because of the supervisor. You all were a gang. And I've watched them do it. I was the victim of it when I was in prison. I had officers attack me without a legitimate reason. I would go downstairs and smell the vodka on the officer's breath when they were drinking vodka, drunk on the job, and just picking out what they called herbs, picking out people they wanted to beat up because it was their fun. This is the truth. They saw it as fun. They saw it as their recreation. That was their recreation. Beating up other prisoners. This time they killed a guy. That's all that happened is this time they got caught. I'm not saying that all correctional officers do that. They don't all do that. There's some very good dudes in there. I met some really good correctional officers, man. I'm not sticking up for them. But these guys, you have the ones that were like wolves, that were like a pack of lions, that were really punks in their personal life. They weren't tough, but you get them together in this group setting with all these guys, and then what they did is they picked Robert Brooks. Still never came up with a reason they even did this to him. No one ever said there was a legitimate reason for doing this. Unless it came from Officer Mrs. A in Mohawk Correctional Facility, who told the gang leader to take care of him, which is what started and sparked this entire incident. Why has she not been charged as an accomplice? And I'll close with this. Officers like Officer Kiefer, and you got your rats. Some of the officers are ratting. They're testifying. They're taking the stand. They're pointing the finger at the other correctional officers. They took their deals. They says, I'll talk. I'll tell you what happened as long as you give me a deal. I knew some of those were gonna. You can look at my videos from the very first video that I did covering Robert Brooks. I said some of these guys are gonna rat. They're gonna rat. These ain't street guys. These ain't real gangsters. These ain't real tough guys. These guys are gonna snitch on each other, and that's what they're doing. They're snitching on each other. And man, these guys will have a hard time in prison. They're going into prison known as being snitches. They're going into prison known as being correctional officers. They're going into prison for known to be killing another prisoner, beating another prisoner to death. Boy, they better tuck these guys away somewhere nice and safe in that Clinton prison, APBU, in that special little area where none of the other prisoners could get to them because they're known as prisoner killing, snitching correctional officers. These guys are pussy. That's what's going on with this case right now. I'll wrap it up. I'll keep you posted. As I said, October 14th, the trial will start again. And that's basically what's going on right now. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one.